Whisky is a type of distilled alcoholic beverage made from fermented grain mash. It is typically aged in wooden casks, generally made of charred white oak. The origins of malt whisky distilling in Scotland are lost in the mists of antiquity. They date back at least to the monks of the 15th century and probably long before. Distilling primarily for medicinal purposes. This practice of medicinal distillation eventually passed from a monastic setting to the secular via professional medicinal practitioners of the time. Although the distiller's art has been understood since earliest times, the subtle aromas and flavors of whiskey have never been fully explained, even today. The distillation process was still in its infancy, whiskey itself was not allowed to age, and as a result tasted very raw and brutal compared to today's version. Renaissance-era whiskey was very potent and not diluted. Over time whiskey evolved into a much smoother drink. The general process of whiskey making involves malting, fermentation, pot stills, distillation and spirit safe, after which the maturation process starts where the whiskey becomes smoother, gains flavor, and draws its golden color from the cask. By law all Scotch whiskey must be matured for at least 3 years, but most single malts lie in the wood for 8 to 15 years longer. And unlike wine, whiskey does not mature further once it is in the bottle. The distinctive smoky flavor found in various types of whiskey is due to the use of peat smoke to treat the malt. A fun fact regarding whiskey is that it is said that Jack Daniels learned how to make whiskey from a Lutheran minister at the age of 6. Isn't that amazing? So without further ado, let us learn some more with the top 10 most expensive whiskey in the world. Number 10. The Macallan 1926 Fine and Rare. With a price tag of $75,000. As a modern example of what might be termed price fixing, the current sales price remains extremely high for this Scotch because only a few bottles are released for sale each year. At some point, they may all be gone, but until then, it remains a truly great vintage Scotch whisky, the oldest of the company's Fine and Rare series. Number 9. Springbank 1919. With a price of $78,000. Distilled in December 1919, according to the label, a few bottles of this legendary Scotch are currently available online. In a familiar whiskey bottle, it was at one time listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most expensive whiskey in the world. It still commands a high price, and that's all because of its rarity. Number 8. Glenfiddich Janet Sheet Roberts Reserve 1955. With a price of $94,000. Perhaps one of the most distinctive bottles of whiskey to be sold, this one boasts the flavors of pear and heather along with barley. A total of 11 bottles were known to be produced, and one sold in 2012 at a New York auction. If you're wondering what it tastes like, so are we. Number 7. Yamazaki 35-year-old single malt whiskey. With a price of $98,925. A Japanese whiskey, single malt variety, tops the list of that country's most expensive whiskey, and is said to be a stellar example of this country's rising status in the production and sale of whiskey. Number 6. Dalmore 64 Trinitas. With a price tag of $160,000. If rarity appeals to you, this blend of rare vintages, some of them dating back to the late 1800s, is just the ticket. Only 3 bottles were known to be made, and one currently exists. Number 5. Macallan Lallick, Other Vintages. With a price tag of $160,971 for a bottle of Macallan Lallick 55. And $83,448 for a bottle of Macallan Lallick 65. The Macallan Lallick 72, priced at $129,075, is currently listed as 161st in popularity on the Wine Searchers list. It should be noted that other Macallan Scotch whisky vintages in unique Lalique decanters are also available for sale on the open market at hefty prices. Whether they are purchased by collectors for the value of the crystal or by connoisseurs of spirits because of the value of the whisky is truly unknown. Perhaps it's a bit of both. But some of the expensive vintages are Macallan Scotch that ranges from 55 to 72 years in age. Number 4. Dalmore 62. This whiskey cost $250,000. More than a century old and held in a unique bottle of crystal and platinum. It is said that the wooden mold used to form the bottle required more than 100 hours to create. That's special. Number 3. Macallan 64 in Lalique Sire Purdue. Price in 2010. It sold at auction for $464,000. The noted French Crystal House designed a triple blend of whiskey from Spanish oak casks dated 1942, 1945, and 1946, in this extremely rare and beautiful decanter. None has been on the market since 2010. Number 2. The Macallan M. The last bottle sold at auction in Hong Kong for $628,205. Contained in a clear faceted crystal decanter with a distinctive stopper, this single malt Scotch is cask aged in Spanish oak for a minimum of 25, and up to 75 years. That's a long time to wait for a sip. Number 1. Isabella's Isla. The most expensive whiskey in the world. With a price of $6.2 million. It's the decanter of white gold encrusted with 8,500 diamonds, 300 rubies and almost 2 bars of white gold, all covering an English crystal decanter, and the very old single malt cask straight Islay whiskey inside, that commands the price tag, a whiskey from the noted Isle of Islay in Scotland. This is legendary liquid gold. It's meant to be savoured, but it's really only meant to look at for this price. Here are some more astounding facts about whiskey. Whiskey starts its life as beer. A deliciously true story. Whiskey is made from wort, which is the beer that gets distilled. And did you know about the angel's pinch or the angel's share? Well, approximately 2% of whiskey gradually evaporates through the barrels each year, and this is famously known as the angel's share. Another interesting fact is that the word whiskey comes from the Gaelic word which translates to water of life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a nice day.